A day after the firing of UT Chancellor Beverly Davenport, we are looking at her personnel file. Our team just poured through the documents that became available within the last hour. Inside, they found several letters of recommendation for Davenport to achieve tenure at UT. The files also include a letter from DiPietro outlining her contract when she was first hired. In that letter, Dr. Joe DiPietro, the president of UT's system, addresses her as Dear Dr. Davenport. In her termination letter, DiPietro addressed her as Beverly. Now, we have heard from a lot of people over the past 24 hours questioning the wording of that termination letter. Many wonder why it outlined her failures so publicly and referred to Dr. Davenport by her first name.
10 News reporter Mark Salinger compares the letter to another high-profile termination letter earlier this year when John Currie fired Coach Butch Jones.
In the past 6 months, the university fired football coach Butch Jones and Chancellor Dr. Beverly Davenport. Both received letters terminating their contracts. Both events received a great deal of attention. Former athletics director John Currie wrote the letter firing Jones in November. UT System President Joe DiPietro wrote the letter firing Davenport this week. There are several key differences in the two. Starting at the beginning of the letter, Currie addresses the letter to Coach Jones. DiPietro addresses his letter to Davenport by her first name, Beverly. The letter to Jones does not outline the reason for the head football coach's termination. Currie writes only the University of Tennessee is exercising its right to terminate your employment. The letter to Davenport outlines 7 areas of unsatisfactory performance, where DiPietro says she has been unwilling or unable to improve. Those include a lack of trust, collaboration, communication, and transparency between Davenport and DiPietro. The language is broad and does not provide specific examples. It only cites complaints from multiple people on multiple occasions. Both letters to Jones and Davenport outline the pay they will receive following their termination. For Jones, the amount exceeded $8.25 million. Davenport will receive almost $439,000 in her new position as a tenured professor at the School of Communication Studies. That's 75% of the salary she received as chancellor, which is common in high-level administrative contracts. Mark Salinger, WBIR 10 News.
Today, we learned who will temporarily take Dr. Davenport's place starting Monday. Current College of Engineering Dean Wayne Davis will step into that role. He has agreed to serve 6 to 12 months. Davis has been with UT for 44 years, becoming dean in 2008. And we are expecting to hear from both Davis and UT System President Joe DiPietro coming up this Monday.